What is going on, everybody? Jake Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're talking rankings once again, but today only going to talk about wide receivers. Who are the top 12 wide receivers for fantasy football here in 2019? It's March. It's still early. A lot can change, but I wanted to record something just so we have something to start as a benchmark. Let's start to see where some of these trends go over the next few months, so that way when our drafts come around, we're confident with who we want, where we can get them. But before we get into it, if you haven't checked out fantasyfootballcalculator.com, there's a link in the description. Go to the website, check it out. Tons of great tools for all your off-season research, ADPs, trends, all kinds of stuff can be found there. So go check that out after the video. But for now, let's break down the top 12 fantasy football wide receivers for 2019. All right, number one on the list, I have Davante Adams there as of right now. And I really waited here in the offseason. There's a lot of rumors going around with Green Bay. Are they going to sign another wide receiver? Somebody that could come in there and challenge for some targets to Davante Adams. Well, as of this recording, they haven't. Jordy Nelson was cut by the Oakland Raiders. Does he reunite there in Green Bay? It's entirely possible, but it's not the same Jordy that used to be there. So I'm really not too worried about Davante Adams as of right now. He's somebody who's going to see triple-digit catches. He's going to have double-digit touchdowns. He's going to be the number one receiving option in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. So as of right now, being that he's the defending champion, the number one rated wide receiver from 2018, it's kind of hard to knock him down when nothing has really changed too much in that offense. Yes, new coaching staff, but it's not going to matter. The connection that he has with Aaron Rodgers is going to be something that this offense builds upon here again in 2019. And as of right now, I got him as my number one wide receiver. Number two, DeAndre Hopkins. Kind of hard to say anything bad about DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he put up great years with Tom Savage and Brock Osweiler. He's a durable guy. He's going to be playing if he's out there. Only missed one game in his career. He's going to put up ridiculous numbers. Going to get you right around 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns, and he's going to see a ton of targets. If there's any knock on DeAndre Hopkins this year, it's that maybe that this is the year that Will Fuller is healthy. Maybe it's the year that Kiki, Do You Love Me, takes some of the targets away and he's healthy for the season. There's a lot to be seen, but as of right now, not a whole lot has changed in Houston. I do expect them to still have to throw the ball a lot. They haven't addressed the offensive line yet, which leads me to believe that they're going to be under pressure having to throw more in games. DeAndre Hopkins is still going to be a solid wide receiver, one of the most elite wide receivers in all of football. Right now, I have him number 2. But if I could do like a 1A and 1B, I probably would. Number 3, Odell Beckham of the Cleveland Browns. That's still fun to say. I mean, it's actually, I'm excited. It's March, and I'm excited to watch the Browns in primetime football. It's going to be an exciting offense to watch. Baker Mayfield is way better than Eli Manning. We haven't seen Odell with a quarterback the likes of a Baker Mayfield. He could put up ridiculous numbers here in 2019. The only knock on him, he does have Jarvis Landry on the other side who's going to command some targets. He's going to be involved in the offense also. It's the best wide receiver he's ever played opposite of. And even though he's going to lose some targets to a Jarvis Landry or a David Njoku, he's still going to be heavily featured in it. If anything, he'll see more one-on-one coverage because there's so many weapons in Cleveland. They can't double-team everybody. Somebody's going to be open, and it's going to be Odell Beckham a lot of the time. He was able to beat double coverage more times than not in New York. I can't imagine what he's going to do in Cleveland. Definitely somebody who, in my opinion, if he can stay healthy in 2019, it would not shock me one bit if he doesn't finish the season as wide receiver 1. Number 4 is going to be Julio Jones of the Atlanta Falcons. Julio just continues to go out there and put up ridiculous yardage. It's kind of what he does. He's going to get you right around 1,400 yards. The question, are the touchdowns and is the health going to be there? That's the biggest concerns every single year with Julio Jones. He's been healthy the past 2 seasons, no missed games over that span, and he's also started to pick up his touchdowns second half of last year. People were really pleasantly surprised to see that he had 8 touchdowns in 2018. He'd been, starting to get to the point where he was frustrating to own because he would go out there, he would get you 20, 25 fantasy points in week 3, and then he would go out the next week and get you 3 catches for 33 yards and get you 3 fantasy points, and you'd be pissed. He's starting to add in those touchdowns, and that really boosts his value. Do they stay there in 2019? I think they do, and that yardage we know is already going to be there. Love Julio Jones. Right now I have him as wide receiver 4. Number 5, Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints, and he is the number 1 target of Drew Brees in a heavy passing offense. You can't hate Michael Thomas. He's going to go out there and produce. He has the past 2 seasons, had 120-plus receptions last year, and he's going to be somebody who's heavily targeted on a weekly basis. There's really no other options there in that offense to receive the ball other than Alvin Kamara. And that really helps him on a weekly basis, kind of give you that safe floor. He's a safe play every single week. He's going to get you double-digit points on a weekly basis, and he's going to have weeks where he absolutely explodes. The defense has really focused on him last year, and it didn't really matter. There weren't a whole lot of other pass-catching options in New Orleans last year, and he still put up ridiculous numbers. Love Michael Thomas. Love the safety of Michael Thomas. Right now, he's wide receiver 5. All right, number 6 is going to be Tyreke Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs, and boy, were the Chiefs fun to watch last year. But if anybody can sit there and say that, hey, at this time last year, that the Chiefs were going to do what they did, they're bold-faced lying to you. Nobody saw that much of an offensive explosion, especially from Tyreke Hill. The guy had a great year, went out and had 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. Great season for Tyreke Hill. Can he duplicate that in 2019? I really don't see why not. Not a whole lot is changing in Kansas City. It's not like defenses can solely focus on taking away Tyreke Hill. Not with Travis Kelce, whether you have a healthy Sammy Watkins. We now know that Carlos Hyde is in the backfield, but it's really Damian Williams' backfield to start. There are still a ton of weapons in Kansas City. I don't see defenses just being able to take away Tyreke Hill. He may be inconsistent at times and have down weeks, but that's because that big play ability is always there. If that big play isn't there in some games, you may kind of struggle at times. Overall, though, he's going to be a safe play in a high-powered offense that's going to throw the ball a lot with Patrick Mahomes. Still love Tyreke Hill in 2019. I have him as wide receiver 6. Number 7 is going to be Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's going to get a huge bump alone just because of the Bruce Arians factor there in Tampa Bay. There's really no resemblance of a run game still. They're going to throw the ball a lot. Now, can Jameis get in the ball? Yeah, I think he can. Mike Williams has started his career with 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, including a very quiet last year. A lot of people weren't talking about Mike Evans last year, and I really don't understand why. The guy had 1,524 receiving yards. A huge year for Mike Evans. And really, I can see similar type of numbers there. There are other options in that offense that kind of limits his touchdown upside. But as far as receptions and yardage, I'm looking for him to have another similar year. Love Mike Evans in a Bruce Arians-led offense. If they can get Jameis Winston on board, which I have confidence in Bruce Arians doing, Mike Evans could be a huge surprise for a lot of people here in 2019. All right, number 8 overall, this is where I have Antonio Brown of now the Oakland Raiders. Now, it kind of seemed like he flipped the switch back off. The crazy switch has been off of Mr. Big Chest, and he seems to be back to normal-ish now in Oakland. He's excited to be with Derek Carr, but Derek Carr is a little bit of a downgrade from Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We can't expect the same numbers out of Antonio Brown. What we can expect, though, is a lot of targets. Now, are they catchable targets? That's going to be the problem. Right now, they've signed Tyrell Williams. Do they really have somebody else to take away defensive attention? Not at this point. They can still add other free agents. They can add pieces through the draft. But as of right now, if I'm an opposing defense playing against the Oakland Raiders, I'm really solely focused on Antonio Brown. Now, he's still going to get his. He's still one of the best wide receivers in football. But is he going to have same Antonio Brown-style seasons? It's possible for a big regression. I could see him somewhere right around the 1,200 yards and 6 to 8 touchdown range there in Oakland. Still a solid wide receiver. Just not what we're used to Antonio Brown. Got to put into an account. There's really not a whole lot going on in that offense as of yet for the Oakland Raiders. Number 9 going to be Keenan Allen of the Los Angeles Chargers. Somebody else who's pretty consistent as long as he can stay healthy. Hasn't been bad the last 2 seasons. Missed 3 games over the past 2 years. But he's going to put up solid numbers. He's going to give you right around that 1,200 yards, 5 to 7 touchdowns. Not crazy numbers, but if he's there in a PPR format, you know he's going to get peppered with targets. No more Tyrell Williams in this offense. It'll solely basically be him and Mike Williams. Hunter Henry does come back, which I do expect to see somewhat of a target share going his direction. But it's still going to be Keenan Allen as the number 1 option in an offense led by Phillip Rivers, who loves to throw the football. Phillip Rivers is there to throw the football. Who's he going to throw it to? Majority of the time, it's Keenan Allen. Love his upside, love his safety. In my opinion, He's still a solid wide receiver you can get probably this year in second to possibly even third rounds in some drafts, which is absolutely crazy. A lot of people may be turned off. They were unhappy with him in the beginning of 2018. Even though he was still putting up solid numbers, he just wasn't putting up great numbers. Solid pick. Love Keenan Allen. Right now I have him as wide receiver 9 going into 2019. All right, finally to number 10. I'm sure a lot of you have been staring at number 10 saying, why is he so low in your rankings? Talking about Juju SmithSchuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's nothing against Juju. I actually really like Juju. I just think that there's been some unfair expectations put on the kid. He was already top 5 in the NFL in targets. It's not like he can go out there and assume this big, huge workload left behind by Antonio Brown. He can't absorb that much more. They went out, they signed Dante Moncrief. I do like James Washington now. Does Juju stay in the slot, and do they put Moncrief and Washington on the outside? That's something we need to see how that plays out. I still like Juju. I still think he's obviously a top 10 wide receiver. I'm just tempering expectations a little bit. This will be the first time he'll be the number 1 guy in an offense. What kind of defensive attention does that garner? A little bit different than he's seen the past couple years. Plus, he doesn't have Antonio Brown opposite of him taking the bulk of the defensive attention. Still love Juju. Still expect a great season out of Juju. I just don't know if I can put him up as high as some people have him. Some people have him in their top 10 overall players. Can't throw him up that high just yet. Let's see how things play out the closer and closer we get to the NFL season. Number 11 is going to be Adam Thielen of the Minnesota Vikings, somebody else who really trailed off there the end of 2018. A lot of people love the way he started the season, but overall, he still had a pretty good season. He ended up with 113 catches, just under 1,400 yards. I mean, and this is a guy who is really going to stay consistent in this offense. Stephon Diggs may be more the big play guy, but Adam Thielen in a PPR league is more the consistent week-to-week play. Obviously, the way he started off last season with that string of 100-yard games, that's not sustainable for an entire season. I think a lot of people got spoiled with him there at the beginning of 2018 and expected him to do it the entire season. That's just not going to happen. We can't hate on him and we can't drop him down too low. He's still an elite talent who's going to see a huge target share in an offense led by Kirk Cousins who's going to throw the ball. No Latavius Murray, kind of solely leaning on Dalvin Cook, who hasn't been the most durable running back. Do they lean a little bit more on Adam Thielen this year? Entirely possible. Love his upside for 2019. I have him as wide receiver number 11. Number 12 is going to be T.Y. Hilton as of right now. Love T.Y. Hilton this year. If he can stay healthy, he has a chance to probably hop into the top 5 of this list if he can stay completely healthy. They did sign Devin Funchess, but hashtag, never Funchess. Who cares? Not overly concerned. He may eat into more Eric Ebron than he eats into T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, the number 1 target of Andrew Luck, who's going to throw up the ball more than probably almost anybody else in the NFL this season. Love the opportunity that T.Y. has. You're going to be able to get him at a decent value. He's more than likely probably going to be your wide receiver 2, unless you go heavy running back at the start of your draft, and then he's your number 1 guy, which is not going to be a bad thing. Love T.Y. Hilton this year, especially with an Andrew Luck in an offense that's really starting to click at the right time in Indianapolis. All right, those are my top 12 wide receivers here for 2019, but yes, it's still early. It's still March. It's before the draft. A lot can change, but I'm curious, what do you think? Who would you move up? Who would you move down here on this list? Leave a comment down below in the comment section. I'd love to interact with you guys back and forth. We pride ourselves on being one of the most interactive YouTube channels out there. We really look forward to that conversation. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your week. Anything else you need, put it down in the comment section. We're always looking to better ourselves over here at the Fantasy Headliners, trying to give out the best content that we possibly can. The team is growing. There's a website coming. Hint, hint. We got a lot of riders being lined up, a lot of things coming down the pipe. Hopefully you're looking forward to it. Following us on Twitter, lots of big things happening. I have my Twitter handle down there on the bottom of the screen. That's easy for me to say. Make sure you go follow me over there. Lots of big news, lots of exciting news coming in the next few weeks. Looking forward to talking to you guys. We'll see you later. Thanks. Bye.